Joining us now, we've got Sheriff Clark is going to be with us in a couple of minutes, but I want to get in here. Susan Platt, she ran for Lieutenant Governor in 2013. Susan was also the chief of staff for Joe Biden, who's now got more allegations coming up against touchy-feely, creepy Joe with the bikers. That doesn't feel good to her. She's, how do you say the word?
Apoplectic.
Apoplectic.
Yep.
Apoplectic Susan is on the line. Plus, she has her own radio show, Chris, just like you. Saturdays, 9 a.m. on WJFN, 100.5 FM, and you can get her online, WJFNradio.com. Susan Apoplectic is on the line. Apoplectic.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Chris. I got to tell you, Chris, I was listening to you talk about getting Sasslaw on your show. For some reason, he doesn't want to go on my show.
It's all about relationships. What can I tell you?
Yeah, I should get him on, too. He'd come on mine because we play the Godfather theme.
Well, you know, people have sent messages back and forth to his campaign manager. His campaign manager emailed me saying, let's get together and talk. And I said, no, let's go on the radio show. And I guess they don't want to do it. So I don't know. But look, here's what we're talking about today. There are so many women who got elected in 2017 to the General Assembly because we have to have a variety of voices, and women have to stand up for many of those voices that aren't heard. We have two women right now, Dr. Vanessa Tyson and Meredith Watson, who have said that they have been sexually assaulted. They want to have their words recounted, and they want to testify in front of whatever the word is, in front of the General Assembly. I believe this is part of the job of our legislature. I mean, you know, I can go ahead and say that someone will say that I stole something at Walmart down the street. And they can take me, so try to charge me with it, but no one saw me do it, but they say I did it. It's the same thing, but I will tell you, when we're talking, this is what got me yesterday. I listened to Dr. Tyson. I listened to Meredith Watson. Meredith Watson said that basically if you have to hold someone down, that's not consensual. I think we all agree with that, right?
Yes.
And they both want to be heard in front of the General Assembly.
Yes.
When you go into somebody's room and they all of a sudden go behind you, lock the door, and turn off the lights, you know something not good is going to happen. I cannot for the life of me understand why Eileen Fillercorn and our women in the General Assembly are not demanding that we do this. You know, here we are talking about Joe Biden, my former boss, who I put a tweet out over the weekend, I guess, saying, I have never seen him do anything ever that was inappropriate. Now, let's just go back about that a little bit. Times have changed a little bit. Me Too movement is here. People don't want their space invaded, and he has to understand that. He's a very touchy, emotional kind of a guy. And that's good in many ways. But times have changed a little bit.
Yes.
But no one here is accusing him of sexually harassing them. That's the difference. Justin Fairfax sexually assaulted two women, according to them.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Well, I'm not in a court of law.
Right. But on the radio,
I believe the women. And I cannot for the life of me understand why the women in the General Assembly cannot believe these two women and give them a hearing. This is not, in my terms, this is not about necessarily the law per se. This is not a courtroom. We're not talking about a courtroom. We're talking about two women who have put themselves through absolute, unmitigated hell publicly to come out and say this. What possible motive could they have beyond getting to the truth? So now I've spewed all over the radio show just now. But it's just, I got to the point where I couldn't contain myself anymore.
Well, it's legitimate, Susan, and this is where we are in our society. And this conversation is, you know, what's the proper body of jurisdiction here? Is it even in the purview of the General Assembly to take this up? If the courts do not, how do you do this? What's the mechanism to do that? And I think, as we discussed earlier, the best way to do it is just because there's nothing impending, like there's an action brought or there's something that the lieutenant governor is or the person's being reappointed or there's no like pending.
It's just a hearing. It's just a hearing. They want to be able to give the women a chance to be heard.
I get that.
And they want to be able to give Justin Fairfax a chance for due process. He says he's innocent. Okay, you just had these two women go on TV. I mean, if you watch them on TV like I did, and Susan, I'm kind of with you on this 100%. I mean, the one woman, young lady who was saying that, you know, he forced her down. I mean, that was, and then she's crying on TV. I mean, that was pretty explicit, right? I mean, she
Absolutely.
remembered all that. It's not like
No.
It's not like Blasey Ford that could remember.
Because there's nothing going to happen in the courts.
Right.
So there has
to be a
hearing. Well, there has to be a resolution for the
That's
government.
why it needs a public hearing.
Yeah, and
Look,
so what
they have disputed all this stuff about Joe Biden being touchy, and I get that. I understand a lot of people don't like it. He needs to change it. But there's never been an allegation of sexual harassment or sexual assault.
Well, not of this kind.
Is a crime,
Right.
what we're talking about. It's serious. And the fact that this guy thinks he can sit in the lieutenant governor's office representing me as a Virginian, and my General Assembly is doing nothing to listen to these women, I believe women, there is no reason that these women would come out and say this if it weren't true, in my judgment. It is very, extremely rare. And you always know when there's one, there's two, there's three, there's four, and there's five.
Well, that's why you have to have some mechanism that challenges and upholds the right of the accused to say, look, if the day in court is going to be public opinion court, I get to have my say and defend myself.
But that's what the Republicans
That's
laid
the point.
out, Susan.
Right. That's
this is
what they're
what
doing.
I don't understand.
Right.
What Kirk Cox, the speaker, laid out the other day is, look, I want to have a hearing, and both women said they want it to be bipartisan. So the speaker said to Eileen Filler-Corn, Caucus of the Corn, as we call it, because there's no leadership going on. It's the antithesis of that. He said, I'll do it in any format you want. You want 5 and 5. You want 6 and 6. You want the courts of justice. You want any 7 you pick. You do whatever you want. But the women have said they want it to be bipartisan so it doesn't turn into a witch hunt type thing or it doesn't look bad. So they've given Eileen Filler-Corn every opportunity to put a hearing together. She's turned everyone down and saying that it's up to Massachusetts and Texas or whatever it was, North Carolina.
If they don't, the responsibility falls to the Virginia legislature to say, who is this person in our government, and does he have the right to defend himself to these charges?
Well, they're allowing him that, but the one that's stopping it is Eileen.
I don't get that.
So how do you, Susan, defend Eileen Filler-Corn and the other women in her caucus, in the Democratic caucus, who are not giving these two women the opportunity to be heard? How do you defend that?
I can't.
There you go.
I can't defend that. And as a matter of fact, I made several calls yesterday basically saying I don't understand this.
But that's what I said in the last segment, is that there's just a point at which you have to go through this. And once you go through it, it will go away. But until then, it won't go away, and it only gets worse the longer you prolong.
If you want to be politically crass about this, which I even hate to go there, because this is bigger than that, this is more serious than that, is if we don't deal with this as a party now, come October, God, I want to go live someplace else. It's going to be pretty bad.
It's very damaging to the Democratic Party's branding, as they had become the face of the Me Too movement. You know, the Kavanaugh, the Trump.
Again, I go back to the fact that in public opinion, Joe Biden is getting beat up right now. And there are no allegations of sexual assault or sexual harassment.
Well, they're doing it. Look, they're doing an oppo dump. Everybody knows he's touchy-feely Joe. I mean, there was
absolutely.
the picture on the front page of Drudge today, where he's snuggling up to some biker gal at the breakfast table. I mean, that's just what Joe does. I mean, you're right, Susan. Times have changed. You can't do that now. You just can't do it. And he got away with it a long time. But again, not being accused of what Fairfax is. But Susan, I mean, Chris here, Susan is right. I mean, the Republicans and Cox have given Eileen Filler-Corn and the Democrats every opportunity to put a hearing together that meets the simple criteria of the women. All they've asked for, these two ladies, is one thing. It be bipartisan. That's it. That's their only request. They have no other rules.
No, and they should have.
And that's pretty fair.
It's entirely fair.
And Corn won't do it. And I think they gotta answer for this. And I tell you the other thing that's happening.
Well,
Susan,
denial is not a strategy.
Right.
It's just not a strategy. If at the same
That's
time, the person who's leading the polls for the presidential nomination for your party is being accused of some things,
right?
And everyone's saying, "Oh, well, he should get out and resign." Well, wait a second. Where are you going? Are we going to be a country that just says the accusation is enough?
Right.
In this country to bring someone down and to drive them out of office?
Well, now Fairfax
is
a
bad standard,
and Fairfax is being unbelievably defiant. Right? I mean, he's being defiant. He's basically saying, hey, I didn't do anything. I took a lie detector test.
Which is right.
I mean, he went on the Senate floor in the final day, and he said it was like a political lynching.
That was one of the worst political things I've ever seen done ever in my life.
But he's been defiant.
Well,
and as long as there's not a hearing, he's going to continue to be defiant.
We need a resolution in this state.
Absolutely, we need a resolution. And I'm looking at the last paragraph of the Washington Post story today, where it says, quote, this is by Meredith Watson, quote, "You are seen as betraying your race. You are seen as betraying black men," she said. "But there's no recognition that a black man has betrayed you."
That's pretty powerful.
I think these women are so powerful, and clearly I believe them, because why on earth would they come out and say things like this?
Have you thought
if it weren't true? It needs to be aired in front of Virginians who want to watch it, listen to it, show up, whatever it is. It needs to be aired. It needs to be aired now.
Why don't you go to Chester Saturday, and why don't
you
go to Chester, and why don't you expand your show for 2 hours, and why don't you get both of these women on your show? Ooh. That's what you ought to do. You have the platform, Susan. You're very passionate about this. I mean, we don't agree on things politically, ideologically, but here's what Susan and I always agree on. Susan does what she says and means what she says, right? So, and she's a very passionate woman. She ran a very inspiring race for lieutenant governor, and she's a true believer in the things that she believes in. Like me, that's why I get along with her. Right? She's not a political animal. She does what she believes in. So I think, Susan, you have a platform, you have a radio show. I'll tell Al, go to Chester, go to 2 hours. I'll tell Colleen, get both women on, get other Democrats on, and bring pressure on Fillercorn and her caucus to go forward with the hearing. That's how you leverage the radio platform that you have.
Here's what we did in 2002.
That's what Saxman does.
Well, in 2002, when we had similar allegations brought against the Speaker of the House, we gave the Speaker of the House an opportunity to explain himself to the caucus, the House Republican caucus. We heard from the accuser, not in that caucus meeting, but through the various channels. This is what has to happen. We did this as a House Republican caucus and got rid of the guy who built the party in Virginia, Vance Wilkins, as Speaker of the House. That's just what we did. You can't get away from this. And I'll tell you, the political upside to this was, and it wasn't planned, and it wasn't like, oh, how am I going to think this thing through? I just thought I did the right thing. A reporter from the Stanton News Leader called me and said, "What'd you hear tonight from Speaker Wilkins?" I said, "I heard nothing tonight that made me believe he's an unjustly accused man." Mm-hmm. But we went through that process, and as painful as it was, and as soon as I got to Washington, D.C. the next day, was lobbying on behalf of my industry, the majority leader of the House, Dick Armey, said, "What the heck's going on with your speaker?" I said, "We heard from him last night. It's just not going to work. Mm-hmm. It's just not there." And you have to go through those difficult times in the process of politics, but it will refine you to a better level. And that's what the Democrats are missing here. This is an opportunity to be a leader.
In many ways, it is about politics, but it isn't about politics. I mean, it's kind of like the Democratic caucus is saying this is a politically rigged thing. Well, you're going to have politics in anything that comes to this. But as John said, it's the right thing to do, whether it's politic or not. It's the right thing to do.
Doing the right thing is good politics.
Where they may.
Well, just doing the right thing is
good politics.
You have to have a hearing, and it's got to be bipartisan. And if these two ladies were making a bunch of demands, I could see it where you might throw your hands up. They made one demand. I would like it to be bipartisan. I mean, it's unconscionable to me, Susan, that Eileen Fillercorn can't find 5 or 10 Democrats in her caucus that would be willing to participate in the hearing.
Who don't they want to hear from? The accused or the accusers?
Or Fairfax.
Which one is it? Or both?
Know.
I mean,
maybe
I think they're stuck with the point is they're not, a legal authority. It's not the proper venue. Well, politics and legal issues are colliding here.
Right.
And
so I don't care if it's necessarily a legal hearing. They got to have a hearing.
You do. I think you're right, and that's what we did. Ours, when we did it with Speaker Wilkins in 2002, it was a private hearing, but it was a hearing nonetheless.
Right. Well, this one has got to be public. But
this
Susan,
has to be public, and even if I didn't think so a week ago, I would say now, since Justin Fairfax has come out saying that he has taken lie detector, we don't know how they were given. Meredith Watson and Vanessa Tyson have come out publicly. All across the nation, they hear this. But in Virginia, we're not hearing directly from them.
All right, I got to roll, Susan, but take my advice. You have a powerful platform. I would go to Chester. I would do 2 hours, and I'll set it up for you, and I would get both ladies on and get other people on that within your circles and bring pressure on Filler Corn to have the hearing. That's what I would do if I were you.
Thank you, John. I'll see what I can do.
You got it. John Fredericks Radio Network. We'll be right back. Stay with us.